everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So Monday means it's Modern Monday here in Instant Deck Tech land, and we have a super sweet Planeswalker heavy list to check out today. So this is Mardu Superfriends recently took Sean Stanley to a top 8 finish at a SCG Modern IQ, so congrats to Sean on their finish with the deck. A quick reminder before we break down Mardu Superfriends for Modern. If you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made in a video, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Mardu Superfriends, like all Super Friends decks, is built around Planeswalkers. So we start off on turn 3 with Liliana the Veil, one of the best Planeswalkers ever printed. Super cheap, attacks the opponent's resources in multiple ways, getting cards from their hand, making them sacrifice creatures, and having an ultimate that represents a ton of value. But that's not all. Beyond Liliana, we also have 4 copies of Chandra Torch of the Defiance, generates card advantage, can add mana, which doesn't come up that often, kill creatures, and then a super game-winning ultimate. But that's backed up by Ajani Vengeance, the classic 4-mana Boros Planeswalker that attacks our opponent's lands primarily by tapping down their stuff, can also Lightning Helix, and then Armageddon's for an ultimate, and finally, a single copy of Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker, which is kind of like a Stormbreath Dragon in Planeswalker form, comes down with haste as a 4/4 flyer to attack the opponent, like Chandra, can kill creatures. So the basic idea of this deck is we're going to stack up a bunch of Planeswalkers on the battlefield and use those Planeswalkers to take over the game. And the sweet thing about Planeswalkers is they generate a ton of repeated value. Most Magic cards, you play them, you use them once, you get their value, you move on. Even creatures, yes, they can attack every turn or block every turn, but their enter the battlefield triggers, usually use them once. Planeswalkers sit out there and do something turn after turn after turn, and when you have multiple Planeswalkers on the battlefield, in the end, the advantage that those cards generate is often insurmountable for the opponent's deck. So those are the Planeswalkers that make the deck Super Friends. We also have 2 different oaths, which is pretty unique. These cards have seen a bit of play in Standard, but not really any play in Modern. So Oath of Chandra kills a creature in the early game, and then kind of works like a finisher. Every time we play a Planeswalker, at the end of that turn, we get to do 2 damage to each opponent, so we slowly drain away our opponent's life. And Oath of Liliana generates zombies whenever we play a Planeswalker, and edicts when it enters the battlefield. So since we have so many Planeswalkers in our deck, we can actually get a ton of value here, making chump blockers, hitting our opponent's life total to help us close out the game. As far as the rest of the deck, we get some spells. Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix, and Terminate. These are removal spells. Lightning Bolt and Lightning Helix also help us close out the game. The way this deck wins is mostly with the Planeswalkers, which means little bits of damage from our Chandras. Maybe a Lightning Helix here or there with a Johnny, maybe a Sarkhan attack or 2. So being able to go to the face with bolts and helixes to get in 3 points, 6 points of damage is really important for this deck to close out the game. And then Terminate just kills anything for 2 mana. And then we have a bunch of discard. Inquisition to pick apart our opponent's hand. More interesting is Rise Fall. This card is kind of the closest thing we have to Hymn to Turok in Modern. Very underplayed, surprisingly. So the fall half is the one we're casting. We can't even cast Rise if we want to, but it's basically a Hymn to Turok, except it doesn't hit land. So it's kind of a fixed Hymn to Turok. Opponent reveals 2 cards at random, and whatever of those cards are not lands they have to discard. And then 4 Blightning. So these cards help attack our opponent's hand before our Planeswalkers come down, which makes sure that our opponent's not going to have answers to our Planeswalkers in hand, their Maelstrom Pulses, their Anguish Unmaking, hopefully hit some of their creatures that could attack our Planeswalkers, and Blightning attacks our opponent's life total as well, so that helps us close out the game and get our opponent a little bit closer to dying to our Planeswalker damage. As far as creatures in the deck, there's only one actual creature, and that's Goblin Dark Dweller, which is awesome because it can flashback all those things we were just talking about. We can flashback a Blightning, which seems insane. I can't imagine many decks are going to survive turn 3 Blightning, turn 5 Blightning again off Goblin Dark Dwellers, even our Lightning Bolt and Lightning Helixes, so this just gets us whatever spell we need for free and leaves behind a big body. And then last but not least, Lingering Souls can go after our opponent with a bunch of tokens, or more commonly, just give us a ton of chump blockers we can discard to Liliana, we make all these spirits to make sure we can jump and keep our planeswalkers alive. In the mana base, a few interesting lands. Shambling Bet and Needlespires give us some creature lands to go attacking. Then we have Keldon Megalith, which can also ping our opponent a bit here and there, and Ghost Quarters for Tron lands. The rest of the mana base, not going through every land because it's really scattered, but it basically comes down to fetch lands for shock lands, some fast lands, and basic lands. In the sideboard, we get Surgical Extraction to hate on graveyards. Rakdos Charm also gets graveyards, can do some other things as well. Kolaghan's Command gives us some all-purpose value, great with Goblin Dark Dweller, kills artifacts, makes our opponent discard, you name it. And then we have a bit more removal in Wrath of God and Terminate, followed by Core Firewalker for the burn or aggro matchup. And that is Mardu Superfriends for Modern. And that's our instant deck tech for today. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.